one of the problems, and probably the biggest problem, with owning a Beech 18 is the spar strap and the spar inspection that's required every 1,500 hours. It basically makes you have to take the strap off. These airplanes have an AD on them. This is the actual spar that holds the wings on, and obviously it's a pretty important part of the airplane. There have been a few of these things that have cracked, and so they've got an AD on the airplane that requires you every 1,500 hours to get this spar x-rayed. My airplane's still got about 200 hours left on the x-ray, but since it's a new airplane to me, and the last x-ray was done back in the 80s, I decided I'm gonna go ahead and do the x-ray. Next Thursday they're coming up with all their equipment to do the x-ray. And so in order for them to x-ray, so part of the AD required you to come in, and this was done years ago. They came in and they came up with this spar strap. There's a lot of different, or 4 or 5 different versions of this strap. This is a Aircon, Canadian version of the strap. And so in order for them to x-ray the spar, we have to get this strap out of the way. And so I have pulled off the cowlings off of the fairings off of the bottom of the strap. I've got one more piece I've got to take off over there. But what I've got to do is, and if you look here, this strap, it goes all the way across the belly of the airplane, and then it goes through the engine compartment and it comes out over to here. Now there's another part of the strap that's on the inside of the airplane, and you can see on this particular one, it's got an extra panel and rivets down the wing. So the strap is basically put on so that if the spar itself fails, the strap will hold the wing on long enough for you to get on the ground. That's the theory. And most people claim the strap will probably fly the airplane by itself, because most of them are pretty serious. So in order to get this spar off, you can't just or the strap off, you can't just take these bolts loose. What you actually have to do is, according to this particular spar strap, is we have to come out here outboard of the tie down strap, and within 2 feet or 3 feet, I think, you have to load the airplane wing down with 400 pounds of sand on each wingtip in order to take these bolts out. So we've got to get the wings loaded down, and then as you can see, there's a number of bolts that have to come out of here, and so we've got to take all these straps off, lay them down on the floor. They get x-rayed as well, and then they'll come in and set the equipment up to x-ray the spar itself, to make sure you don't have any cracks or anything like that in the spar. So that's what we're going to be doing over the next few days, getting prepared for next Thursday for them to come in with the equipment. All right, so the first thing that we have to do, we have to put 400 pounds of ballast on each wingtip so that we preload the wings so that we can get the strap off. So we've got to make sure that we get that done first. And also, we're not going to remove the ballast until after we put the strap back on. So once we load the wings down, we've got to make sure that we leave everything just like it is until we're actually finished. Also, the weight of the 400 pounds has to go from the tie-down strap out to the end of the wing. We can't put it on the wing tip, so we're going to be putting everything in between those ribs. video. Okay, so at this point, we now have 800 pounds of weight on each wingtip. It is not something that I was very excited about loading out there, but anybody that was wondering if you could walk on the wing of a Beech 18, there's your answer, unless you're really, really fat. Now the next thing that we're gonna do is we've got to take the spar strap apart from the we're on the inboard side of the engine. We got to take all these bolts out, and then we got to take the mount off for the jack mount. We've got to make sure we mark the jack mount so that we can get it back in. It said to do that specifically, but I'm also going to be marking all of these bolts so that I put them back into the same position as well. I don't know if that's necessary, but it's what we're going to do. I need to document this before I get this off to remind myself when I'm putting it back together what I've got to do. So a moment ago, I had a bow in this piece where it was kind of stressed a little bit. You can see this piece will pull down a little bit. So it was pulled down and kind of a little bit under stress. When I pulled this last bolt out, you'll notice that what happened is it relieved the stress over here and caused this plate to shift out a little bit. So it's put pressure on this bolt. So when I'm putting this back in, I'm probably going to end up making a little jig or something to slide up under here to kind of take a little bit of that pressure off. But I got to remember to do that. And I'm still researching a little bit on the strap, because the instructions say to take the splice out inboard of these two splice plates off inboard of the jack mount, but it doesn't say anything at all about taking the center piece of this strap off. So I'm still I'm gonna have to call somebody and see if I can get some information about that, because the instructions, they've got pretty good detail as to how to do all this stuff, but they don't mention this inside at all. So what I've done is I've pulled this down and just stuck a 2x4 up in there. It's a little bit thicker than what I need, but it worked perfect for taking the stress off of this piece, so I can get this bolt out. So you can see this piece is back up against the strap now, so I can just get the bolt out with a socket wrench and we'll be good to go. So when I put this thing back in, I'm going to have to remember to brace that centerpiece to get all this stuff to line up, because otherwise you'll be fighting yourself trying to do it. So I wanted to video this real quick. We're going to go ahead and take this plate, these two plates, completely off, and then I am going to take these, there's 3 bolts here in this sandwich setup here to hold where the spar strap actually goes through the underbelly of the fuselage. So we're going to take that off, and then that'll let this plate, the strap, drop completely off the airplane and get it completely out of our way. And then when we go back in with it, we'll just have to stress it again and get it off, get it back on. So that's kind of the plan. As you can see, it doesn't really, there's nothing holding that strap to the airplane, it's other than that one bar there. So we're just gonna go ahead and get that thing completely out of the way. So come right here. This is what I need to do. up here. I need you to hold put the wrench on there and hold that wrench while I take the nut off. The bolt out. Okay. Okay. So now we've gotten the strap broke loose out here. It's broke loose on the inside from those plates, and I want to show one more thing up inside the gear well. It looks like I'm not actually going to have to take it loose, but I want to point it out because there is a strap that it actually runs through on the inside of the spar up inside the gear well that it's going to be sliding out of. So when you put it back in, you want to make sure that you slide it back in. So we're going to go up under here and take a look. So there's one key thing about going up inside the airplane. Especially when you're bald, is always wear a hat because there's a lot of things in there that want to poke you in the head. So what we're going to do, if I can figure out how to turn that light off, what we're going to do is we're going to go up in here and take a look at it. So as you can see up in here, these things right here are what love your head. So when you slide up inside the gear well to try to do anything in here, you almost always are going to hit your head on these two latches. So it's a good idea to put a hat on or something to absorb at least some of the pain. So right here is our strap. So this piece right here is the piece that we're actually sliding out. So we've taken the bolts loose on the outboard side and on the inboard side, and then we're going to be sliding this thing out of here so that we can examine it. If you look right here, and this piece is actually on this gear well, it's over here on the side like this. On the other gear well, it's more in the middle. I don't know, I need to make sure that hasn't moved. I don't know exactly what's holding it up to the spar. But this is, I'm gonna try to get over here on the other side so that I can show what this thing is actually doing. If this crappy little chair I'm sitting on will move. Shit, I can't really get in here, but this is the strap that we're looking at. And
So this piece is hooked around the spar up here. So that's the spar, the main spar that holds the wings on. And this strap is just wrapped around it, and then it holds the strap on here. And it's just for support. It's not really doing anything. So when I pulled on it, it looks like the strap is gonna just pull right out from inside it. But when you put it back in, we need to make sure that it goes back into that strap and that it all goes back together like it came out. All right, so the last step to this process is to try to pull this strap out. So what we're supposed to be able to do is we're supposed to be able to just slide it. So it looks like it is going to come loose, but so what's happening is the strap has got rivets in it that are actually holding two plates together. So it's actually a double piece of metal here that's riveted together. And these rivets, the heads of these rivets are catching inside of that strap that's on the inside. So to get it out, you kind of have to pick up on it a little bit to get it to come through that strap. And we're just going to keep pulling until the whole strap comes out. And then once we get it out, we're going to take the strap and we're just going to lay it right here so that we can examine it later. Now, one note, these pieces of metal or of fabric here, it looks kind of like rubber or something, were what was wrapped around that strap that's in there. So when we run this thing back in, we're going to need to make sure that we get something to wrap the strap where it goes through that support piece. So because these things pulled out from in there, so I may end up actually taking that strap out and repairing it and putting it back in. So, but we have now successfully pulled the spar strap off the right wing, and then we're going to repeat it for the left wing. The only other thing I'm going to videotape is how to take the center piece of the strap off once we get both of the outboard straps removed. So this is the fairing on the inside of the engine here, and I just wanted to kind of show how this thing comes off because it's a bear to put back in. But the problem is you've got an engine mount that is, a jack mount that's sitting over here, and so you can't slide the thing out. And there's an angled piece here and back here on the back. So the only way to get this out is to literally just pull it out from in between all these pieces. But as you can see, it's quite the bitch to put back in because of the way that it comes off. So now we're just gonna repeat what we did over on the other side. We're gonna take these outboard, take the jack off, take the outboard screws loose, and then pull this spar out, or the strap out. Go ahead and pull that center strap out. What we ended up doing is just taking the front bolts out of the strap and then sliding it out the front. That strap actually slides back and forth through that plate, so there's nothing actually holding it in place. It just moves, but it can move back and forth, so it ended up not being a big deal at all to get out.